You're listening to Left at the Valley 2.0, Atheist, Skeptic, and Humanist Radio.
Hi, this is Bernard Lamberell, and I took a left at the valley.
I know we shouldn't have to scream that we're atheists. You know, we don't have non-astrologers and all that. But with the religious people taking over the world, I mean, we can either speak up or be pushed into a corner.
I'm proud to be an atheist, a skeptic, a non-believer, an infidel, a heathen. I call it how I see it. I say it's ignorance and you just call it faith and unsubstantiated claims. That's something to be ashamed. I'm an atheist.
Coming at you from beautiful BC, Alligator, Florida, Coat Hanger, Texas, and Juicy Juice, Minnesota, this is Left at the Valley 2.0. My name is Kevin, and here's a question for all of you mind readers out there. Joining me as usual is a team that will tell you that Hamburger Helper only works if the hamburger is ready to accept that he needs help.
Oh, you never fail to make us snort laugh.
She shot an annoying mime using a silencer, Sabrina.
Oh, hi.
Oh.
He is trying to use it to add his music to Spotify if Joe Rogan stays on. Brett Lee.
That's right, goddammit. We're gonna, and they're gonna take him down because of me. Watch, you'll see.
He composed a country song where a self-driving Tesla truck actually left the singer, Benjamin.
Yeah, it would.
And she planned to be spontaneous at some point, maybe tomorrow. I don't know.
No. No.
Guys, welcome back. And this is brought to you by our new patron, Bernard Lamberell, whose job telling is like a Toyota Camry, very reliable and high satisfaction ratings.
That's awesome.
And we'll be talking to Randolf Richardson today of Canadian Atheists in the second half of the show. But first, let's do our usual chit chat. All right. Okay, guys, in the news, I got to talk about this because this is big Canadian news, actually. There's a Canadian convoy of truckers heading to Ottawa.
Don't let the name fool you.
Ottawa being the Canadian capital. It started as a small protest of anti-vax mandate, right? And this has grown it's blown way out of proportion. Now, some people are out there actually saying there's 50,000 trucks and 1.4 million. Yeah, they're talking about semis, right? And 1.4 million protesters going to Ottawa. But here's the reality check. A count by the local police caught 8 separate convoys, captains, and 8 separate convoys, essentially. They counted about 230 tractor trailers, and 725 personal vehicles from Toronto and Western Canada.
Yeah.
And maybe probably 200 vehicles out of Nova Scotia and New Brunswick, and possibly about 2,000 pedestrians from the province of Quebec. So where are you going?
So math isn't always my biggest strong point, but I feel like that is less than the reported number.
Yeah, it's much less than the purported 50,000.
Okay, but they're really pushing that there is that many, and they're showing pictures. I don't even know if they're pictures from this.
No, they're not.
Supposed quote unquote convoy on the Facebook groups. Anyways, it's bad. It's the alt-right. That's who's out there. There's pictures of people flying Canadian flags upside down that have been defaced with swastikas.
Yeah.
This is who's at this protest, okay?
There's been a lot of local protests as well in the area, and just staying locally. And I've seen several "Let's Go Brandon" flags.
Yeah.
God knows why.
Wrong country, dude.
No.
Yes,
Trump?
it's the wrong country.
No. Trump is going to take over as president and take over Canada. So we'll all become part of the U.S.
That's right. Okay. I didn't think of it that way.
We have to save them from socialized medicine.
That's right.
They have a GoFundMe. I didn't. Did you mention that?
No.
Okay, so they started a GoFundMe. Somebody that's supporting this so-called Freedom Convoy. Anyway, it's raised at last check over $7.5 million.
Really?
It might be close to $8 million.
Wow.
It's to quote pay for their gas and lodging on their way, and it's been approved, but apparently it's been organized by somebody who's the secretary for a very alt-right political party. So let's just keep this in mind, that these funds may not be used as intended, although they're supposed to provide a very detailed accounting of where the money is going to GoFundMe in order to be able to withdraw it.
To be completely fair, like I said, at the very beginning, some of these truckers were actually genuinely protesting the vaccine mandate.
Maybe they were. I doubt it.
I mean, there's no reason to do it, but they were genuinely doing that. But the movement now has been hijacked by white supremacists and completely far right. Absolutely.
And it's like Confederate flags. Why are we seeing Confederate flags being flown in Canada? Like, get real.
Fucking weird.
And I saw a sign that said it was a picture of a swastika with needles underneath each, line of the swastika. So there's 4 needles, and it said like "Hail Kenny" and "Hail somebody else." Kenny being the premier of Alberta, Texas.
Oh, okay. No, that I know what you're talking about. They're saying that the people that want everybody to take the shot are Nazis. That's right. Yeah. Okay. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Anyway, it's ridiculous. It's not real. Like, this is not how we feel in Canada. 90% of truckers are vaccinated.
Yes, absolutely.
90%.
And on top of that, the Canadian Trucker Alliance is actually against this.
This is okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
Quote, the vast majority of the trucking industry is vaccinated. Most of the nation's hardworking truck drivers are continuing to move cross-border and domestic freight to ensure the economy continues to function. The CTA does not support and strongly disapproves any protest of public roadways, highways, and bridges.
And to just clarify who they are, Trucking Alliance is the Canadian Trucking Alliance is who advocates for truckers.
Yeah.
That's who goes and says, hey, they're not being paid a fair wage. It's like their union. So
wait. As an American, you got to explain some terms to me. What is fair wage?
In unions.
I know it's hard to believe.
It's another road for road.
Yeah.
Okay, so guys, I kind of got to jump in here because we have to talk about this new Kid Rock song. Have you guys seen this? We the People?
No.
Let me. Okay. Number one, it's the worst song that ever happened. It's terrible. But let me read some of the lyrics. We the people and all we do reserve the right to scream, fuck you. Wear your mask, take your pills. Now a whole generation's mentally ill. Man, fuck Fauci. But COVID's near. It's coming to town. We got to act quick. Shut our borders down. Joe Biden does. The media embraces. Big Don does it. And they call him racist. We the people. Oh, let's go, Brandon. Then that repeats. And then it says things like fuck Facebook, fuck the media, the mainstream media. It just kind of goes on like with this nonsense.
Oh, we lost Kid Rock is what you're saying.
No, I don't think we ever had him.
Kid Rock.
We really had him, but
so Kid Rock plays like he's some like rednecky Southern dude, but he's like a rich kid from Michigan.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's not even from the South.
But talk about pandering to your fucking audience here. He's like, look, it's just unapologetic. Well, it's like, okay, so we've always had protest songs, right? I get it, protest songs, but they're not this.
No.
Just way too straight to the point. Like they're a little bit like, artistic. They actually.
It's not even good Rage Against the Machine kind of song.
Exactly.
Right. You got to go against the man. At least come up with something nice and a bit more poetic.
There's right, like intelligent
songs like that. Yeah, exactly. And as a guy who was, I guess I could classify myself as a trucker. Speak to my fellow truckers out there. You guys are always going out there saying, our freedoms and blah blah blah. What freedoms have you actually lost here? You're moving your entire truck across the country, over like several thousands of miles. Where are your freedoms restricted at this point?
They're not allowed to sit down in restaurants if they're not vaccinated.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
they can go to a fast food restaurant. There's no problem there. They can even sit down in a fast food restaurant without showing their vaccine passport. But then no, they can't go into a regular sit-down restaurant.
Most of the truckers out there understand that you need, if you're going to cross the United States, go do some.
You need to be vaccinated.
You need to be vaccinated, and they're okay with that. Mm-hmm. So you really need to stop, being a baby here. It's the same thing that you want to be a cop, you need to do a criminal background check.
It's the same. Okay, in the United States, I'm not sure that cop background check really works.
Yeah.
Just saying.
And also, you know, when it comes to trucking, you know, you're going to have to be able to take a drug test and pass. So
what's even worse is I saw this morning as we're doing this. I saw this report this morning that a local food bank in Ottawa, the employees were actually threatened.
Are you talking about the soup kitchen that we were talking about? Yeah.
They were actually threatened by these alt-right.
Yeah, they were being pressured to give out free meals.
Exactly.
To the point where they had to like close their doors.
Yeah, exactly. And they kind of complied because to avoid, a conflict and a fight, they started giving out like food to these people. But I'm sorry, this is not Canadian. What you doing there is really not Canadian.
They defaced a Terry Fox statue, and that is just so not okay.
That is Terry a crime.
Fox, I know you probably guys don't know who he is, but back in, was it 1980, very early 80s, 1980, 81. His name is Terry Fox. He lost his leg to cancer, and he decided to run the Marathon of Hope, which was from one end of our country to the other to raise money for research for cancer, because he had leg cancer. That's how he lost his leg, and he made it quite far. I'm getting chills. I might choke up a little bit.
For Canadians, anyway, Terry Fox is like
he's an
national
icon.
hero. He's an icon, absolutely. He's
anyway,
bigger than
he
Wayne
didn't
Gretzky,
make it.
You know?
He tried to run across the country. How he made it to Ontario, I think, from BC, and the cancer came back and it took his life. So he didn't make it.
And the Marathon of Hope has been going on since.
But we do the Terry Fox run every year.
School children do the Terry Fox run. There's statues built to this guy's honor.
There's schools built. I'm actually crying.
Yeah, this is the kind of convoy Canada's all about, not this kind of bullshit I'm seeing here. Exactly.
Is that what it is? Like they're saying, "Fuck that convoy. Look at ours." Like, what is the reasoning for the defacement?
Oh, who knows?
I don't know. I mean, apparently there's also a report saying they also kind of defaced the tomb on the unknown soldier.
Yeah, they were parking on it. It's
like, holy shit,
that's
man.
Another
Show some
thing.
respect.
No disrespect. There's hundreds of cars parked there illegally.
This is really disgusting, and I hope these people are brought to heel real fast because
they will be, because this is not our Canada. So sorry, rant over, guys.
No, that's fine.
Oh yeah, that's good. It's good.
Don't believe what you're seeing. That is not. Unfortunately, our Canadian media is giving equal attention to these people. This is not how we feel.
No,
this is not our Canada.
No, even the truckers are not happy about this. No. I'm one of them. I should know.
Yeah.
So anyway,
sorry,
it's a percentage of a percentage, right?
Yeah, very small.
So it's like a percentage of Canada's truckers, and then a 10% of the truckers are these guys, and they're getting all the
yeah, exactly. And it's not even just the truckers, of course. Now it's joined by a whole bunch of all these crazy wacko conspiracies, all right. You're seeing it happen right now.
Yeah,
Jesus. That sucks.
Anyway, in other Canadian news,
wait, cut Hertzy off.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, you telling the story actually reminded me. I'm like, oh yeah, I saw a movie about Terry Fox, and it was amazing.
Yeah, he's
and
an amazing person.
One of the few times I've actually cried about a human death in a movie.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
If you're in America and you never heard about Terry Fox, I strongly encourage. He was actually voted years ago. They did a show called The Greatest Canadian.
Oh, he's on 100% the greatest Canadian.
He came in second.
John A. McDonald?
Wow. No, the one who did the universal healthcare.
Nice.
Oh my God, we forgot his name.
You can't forget the greatest Canadian's name.
I was very young.
Douglas. Anyway. So anyway, moving on in more Canadian news. A study commissioned by Canadian Charity Liberation 55 surveyed 3,600 students from grades 6 to 12, and they tried assessing their knowledge of anti-Semitism and particularly the Holocaust.
Oh dear.
The report concluded that their education is severely lacking in schools, and most of their knowledge is actually acquired via social media.
Where was this study done?
Which town exactly? It didn't say. 32.9% of the students feel that the Holocaust was actually exaggerated or even fabricated.
What?
Yeah, that's a third of the students. Yeah, 42%.
I mean, it's only 3,600 students, but anyways,
I mean, these are kids, right? These are kids. 42% said they witnessed an anti-Semitic event, and this is ranging from jokes to celebrating the Pittsburgh synagogue shooting to making hateful comment on gaming platform, anti-Semitic platform comments. The positive outlook of all this is that the reports also say that 92.6% want to learn more about the Holocaust of these students. So that's a ray of light there.
But I'm surprised that they're not really. Wait, what grades did you say?
6 to 12.
Okay, see, I learned about the Holocaust in high school. They played videos. I saw some pretty scary ones that traumatized me to this day.
No, but I agree. I mean, I learned about it too, but I feel like I didn't learn enough. I feel
I
learned
agree.
most about
I
it
did
much
go and
later.
learn more. I chose to learn more.
So I think this is scary because one of the biggest things about the First and the Second World War was the lest we forget, and it seems we are forgetting. And the younger generations right now are kind of showing that. And of course, it kind of ties in with the whole. We were talking about this just before the show about the mouse that was removed in the Tennessee school district there. The comic graphic novel. So,
as much, and just to clarify with Mouse, as much as the graphic novel does go into the trauma that is portrayed, the trauma that is gotten from from being a Holocaust survivor, and then that is even passed down to the children, because there's actually a mouse too. I don't think it goes quite as much into the actual atrocities of the Holocaust, which, if you ever want to go into there, all of the content warnings, just all of them, blanket all of them. I studied that stuff when I was started studying it when I was in middle school. It's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, my eye opener was the Diary of Anne Frank.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and if you haven't read that book, read it.
So the thing with the mouse, a graphic novel, right? Because most of the stories that we are hearing about the Holocaust and the perspective that people that are telling them are from a very evangelical kind of point of view. And the thing with Mouse is that it is coming from a very Jewish perspective. It's the Jewish side of the story.
Yeah, one of the reasons apparently they decided to ban this this book in the Tennessee school district there is because they were saying apparently the graphic novel kind of starts with the father mouse and his son mouse basically having a chat, and he was telling him about how he lost his virginity, father to son, and apparently that was one of the reasons. It's like, yeah, that's okay.
How can they be so against canceling shit? And talking. Right? I mean, what's his name? Wrote a book called "Don't Burn This Book." Fuck, I can't think of his name. The one that used to be on TYT. Anyway, he wrote a book called "Don't Burn This Book," and then here they are, like banning books because of what? A conversation about virginity? Are you fucking kidding me? And it just so happens to be in a book about the Holocaust, which they really don't want, attention.
These graphic novels are usually primarily aimed for teenagers and young adults and stuff like that. Do you really think they don't know about losing virginity at that point? I mean, come on.
Right, come on.
This is not your 3-year-old looking at Blue's Clues reading that book.
Yeah,
and here's one of my favorite.
Internet now.
One of my favorite pieces about the banning was they said it was for nudity, which, as noted earlier, these are all characters portrayed by mice and cats.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they don't like Donald Duck either because he's not wearing pants.
Yeah, well, you want to see nudity? Why don't you ban all the real pictures of the Jews being shoved into the gas chambers completely naked? All of them. Why don't you ban those too while you're at it? It's like,
the video I saw was the first time I saw a dead body, and it was a real dead body. Like, they were showing videos of the death pits in the different concentration camps, not death pits. They would
the crematoriums,
the trenches,
not the crematoriums, but the trenches where there was just piles of dead bodies, and they were uncovering them. And I was I was young, maybe 14, 15, and that scars as someone, like, I wasn't ready to see that.
No, but in the same way, it's I hate to say that use this term, but it's almost essential scarring,
well, it is,
right?
In some ways. It reminds us never to let it happen again.
Yeah, but apparently we're forgetting that, so we need to change that. Absolutely,
I agree.
And in better news,
I'm going to
finish this week with better news.
Thank God, jeez Louise.
Australia has announced it will spend an extra $50 million to preserve the iconic koala species.
Yay!
Now, in recent years, koalas have been decimated by disease, especially chlamydia, apparently.
Interesting.
Vehicles and bushfires.
Yeah, fire has been real bad on them.
Apparently, they've gone down from 330,000 individuals to 100,000 and even less in the wild. Investment will add to the already. They've already spent $74 million since 2019.
I'm glad to see that that's happening.
Yeah, in 2019 and 2020, there was over 60,000 koalas that have been killed by the bushfires. I remember those years, and it was pretty nasty. Actually, poor little things. They can't move very fast, right?
No. They're coming out burned and
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
so
it was
sad.
pretty nasty. Well, so it's good news that Australia is actually investing in trying to save the species. So
Mhm.
hopefully that will be down the road.
Yeah.
It doesn't help that they're. Oh, I was gonna say it doesn't help they're all drug fiends too.
Drug fiends?
Oh yeah. So eucalyptus. The
eucalyptus.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Is actually poisonous, and so how they get their quasi immunity for that is they eat their mom's poop when they are a child, which gets them just enough immunity so that they can continue to eat it later. So they spend their entire time high.
Oh shit!
Also, if you ever look at somebody who's trying to do surgery on a koala, everything is black because it has been pigmented by the eucalyptus plant.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's yeah, they spend their whole time. They're drug fiends. They're cute.
I like them even more now. Like, this
very
is awesome.
angry, violent,
drug fiends,
sexual transmitted diseases, drug fiends.
It makes sense now. Now the chlamydia is adding up.
I heard. I mean, I've only seen koalas in zoos. I've never been like really up close to one, but I hear apparently these smell. Apparently they have a really strong smell. So.
I can buy that.
Part of the eucalyptus thing.
Probably.
All right, Sabrina, you got a top 10 for us?
I do. Yeah.
Fantastic.
So this week
feels like it's been a while since we had a top 10.
It's only been like 2 weeks.
Couple weeks. Yeah.
It's too long.
Well,
it's too
you
long,
know,
Sabrina.
With all the I'm just going to preface this with the M&M story this week.
Oh, nice.
This was kind of the inspiration for my top 10. So we all know that the green M&M and the brown M&M are getting a goddamn, makeover again, and they're not going to be as sexy anymore. And so Tucker Carlson
Hold
has
on.
just
they're not going to be as sexy to Tucker Carlson.
Right. Poor Tucker.
I'm sure it's still
Tucker.
sexy to a lot of people.
Yeah, so poor Tucker Carlson has just kind of gone crazy about that and has been ranting about it. I think he's forgetting about the days when they were male M&Ms.
Yeah, the green M&Ms.
So I mean, green and brown M&Ms were both male before, so they're technically trans. And, he's got a real thing for the old, the what was she wearing? Go-go boots, little green M&M.
Yeah. No, that was
now
the brown
she's wearing
one.
sneakers. And the poor brown one lost her heels, and now she's just
got
wearing
block
kind
heels
of
instead of
flats.
stilettos.
So
and poor Tuck, he's so upset. So
fucked up his spank bank,
You gotta call him Tuckums every time. His name is Tuckums.
Poor Tuckums.
Oh, Tuckums.
So there's the part about he's just kind of said so many stupid things.
It's so hard to be the heir of the Swanson fortune. It's so difficult. Someone could just get a break.
Heir for over 10 years now. He went on Fox in like 2009 or some stupid thing. So he said a lot of things in that time that just kind of make you go, oh my god. So here's some 10 stupid things Tucker Carlson has said.
Oh, this
brilliant. Yes.
Well, number 10 is he claims that wind power is a scam.
Oh.
He said that how will it heat your house when it's minus 30 below? Wind power is a scam.
It's not oh god. Oh
it's like,
god.
Wind makes it colder, stupids. Okay. I've slept with a fan next to me. I know how this works. Okay.
It's like the argument against solar. Like, what are you going to do when it's cold? And like, actually, the solar panels are more effective in lower temperatures. And they're like,
Right?
Oh, yeah. One of my favorites is with that. It's like, because all of the days in Minnesota are gray when it's cold. And it's like, no, actually, when it's negative 20, it's blue. Just nobody looks up because it's too painful.
Oh,
exactly.
shit.
It's way too bright.
And when it comes to solar panels, technology is good enough now that in Germany, for example, they've been using it for quite a while, and they have the kind of weather that we have up here in Vancouver and Seattle. It's gray all the time, and the solar panels work perfectly fine.
Exactly.
They've developed. It doesn't have to be clear skies all the time.
No, the rays cut through that stuff.
Did he never use a solar calculator?
Exactly.
Did you ever use a calculator?
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh, good point.
Number 9, Tucker said that Black presidential candidate Cory Booker was not allowed to discuss racism.
What?
Yeah, he claims it's essentially impossible for a Black person from an upper middle class background to experience racism, pointing specifically to Cory Booker, calling it, again, a scam.
He
likes that word scam.
Yeah. Jesus.
So he's essentially saying if you are better off,
Yep.
monetarily speaking, you don't experience racism
Exactly.
at all. Only the poor people experience racism.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
As
well,
if, like,
it's just a blatantly failed understanding of what racism is. They're like bad, poor people that aren't white, and it's like, no, this happens to everyone.
Because if you compared him to the people that make the same amount of money as him, right, he would still be having an experience that would, is different from their experience because of racism. So it doesn't add up.
By the way, speaking of racism, if you haven't seen on Netflix, there's this documentary called 13 about how essentially African Americans have been treated in the U.S. since the 13th Amendment and all that stuff. It's gold. Go watch it. It's really good.
Nice.
Yeah.
So to carry on with the fact that he's an idiot,
I'm glad you highlighted that. We didn't figure that out.
Number 8 is remember that time when he called the Iraqis primitive monkeys?
Ooh.
So he made several appearances on a shock radio show. I think it is called Bubba the Love Sponge.
Oh yeah, then you can thank our state for that asshole. Yep, he came from here.
So he said a string of very racist comments about Iraqis and Barack Obama on that show. So he called them primitive.
I remember that.
Monkeys.
Ugh, what a piece of shit.
So
technically, it's true of the human race. We are primitive monkeys in many, many ways.
Yes.
All of us, though.
There's a lot of history with that word, though, for certain areas. So,
oh yeah,
and it's just not okay.
No.
So number 7, remember that time he was blaming immigration for making homelessness worse? You might not. I'm not. So
that's the caravan, right?
Yeah, he was touring in Los Angeles, and he said Los Angeles is supposedly one of the richest cities in the world, and in some ways it is. But the video you're watching shows something else. He said, Carlson said this as the network was airing footage of homeless camps in the area shot by one of the video's producers the week before. And he said California's poor, meandering, trash-filled streets right in the middle of the city, block after block. Homelessness encampments on the sidewalks blanketing downtown LA. This is how the poor spent Easter Sunday in California, he continued. They weren't clustered along a single road either. It wasn't just like Skid Row. It was many Skid Rows. We drove 3 completely different blocks and the encampments just continued. It's America's second largest city. He also ended, you might be wondering, with so many people priced out of local housing, people literally living in RVs, miles of RVs parked along the streets as you're watching here in tents. Why wouldn't local leaders stop the flow of new arrivals to get prices under control and opening up new housing? They're doing the opposite.
That's not how that works.
No. And this guy's going to try a political run.
It's one of those, he's so close to the point, he stepped on it and then the rake hit him in the face.
Yes, exactly.
He said people want no limits on people moving here when the state can't even house the people who are already here. LA is a sanctuary city and a sanctuary state. Every politician there with any ambition will denounce our border as an atrocity and immigration enforcement as an abomination.
Wait
okay.
Wait a second. Just 1 minute. He just said the state cannot house these people. If you wanted the state to house these homeless people, wouldn't he be decrying socialism?
Right? Yeah, that's
okay. But here's the other thing. Imagine if a state made a law that said nobody can move here anymore.
Yeah,
right?
They'd be screaming about their freedoms. Everyone would be like, I'm moving to California. I'm going to prove them wrong. I don't care if I get fined. I don't care if I go to jail. I have rights.
There's definitely a lose-lose situation for a lot of left area policies. Like almost no matter where on the spectrum you are on the left, it's like it's very much a lose-lose situation. You're damned if you do anything, and then you're damned if you don't.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
So here's another. This is one of my. Sorry.
Go ahead.
One of my favorites. Number 6, when he claimed that the metric system was akin to tyranny.
I remember this one. Yeah,
I quit the show.
You can't say that to
Here you go. Quote, almost every nation on earth has fallen under the yoke of tyranny, the metric system. From Beijing to Buenos Aires, from Lusaka to London, the people of the world have been forced to measure their environment in millimeters and kilograms. The United States is the only major country that has resisted, but we have no reason to be ashamed of using feet and pounds.
Oh my God.
The UK doesn't use pure metric. The UK uses miles. The UK uses stones.
And to be your devil advocate, Sabrina, NASA and all of the scientists in the US use fucking millimeters.
I thought that one was pretty good.
Okay, for American listeners, if you don't understand why the rest of the world works in metric and not the US, okay,
because it's better.
Metric is based on a base 10.
Yeah,
it's that simple.
Yep.
You take 10 millimeters makes a centimeter. Milli to centi. Milli for 1,000, centi for 100
millimeters makes a centimeter.
No. 10 millimeters makes a centimeter.
Look, no one wants a math lesson. Move on.
Yeah. Anyway,
it's on the base.
See, don't tell me how to do math. I'm a little too tired for that.
It's on the base 10 all the time. That is why they use metric.
Anyway,
it's that simple. It's just easier than saying 3.8.
He's very passionate about metric, you guys.
We can tell.
Because we have to sit here and get out a calculator and start doing calculus to fucking figure out, like a pound to ounces and shit. It's ridiculous.
No, you don't, Brent. Just ask Google. It will tell you. You don't even need to do the work.
It's really easy.
Google's been paid off by big metric. Okay, I'm not doing it. No.
As a baker, I am all about us going to the metric system because I hate using cups for all of that. Grams are all the way.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to cook in metric. I agree.
Graham crackers? You want to bake in graham crackers?
Graham crackers.
Yeah.
Only if I'm making cheesecake.
Use a spoonful. I mean, depends on the spoon, right? There's a whole bunch. It's a teaspoon, a tablespoon. I've got big, huge spoons. I mean, I don't know.
And number 5, remember the time that he said Ilhan Omar is living proof that immigration has made U.S. more dangerous?
Oh, God.
Yeah, he went on an unhinged attack on the congresswoman, but it was actually really probably worth it for her response, which is she is living proof that, he said she is living proof that the way that we practice immigration has become more dangerous to this country. She's is a living fire alarm, a warning to the rest of us that we better change our immigration or else. So she fought back and just basically, I don't have the quote here, I didn't copy it, but she was just like, I love my country and fuck you, basically.
That's about right.
I mean, off the top of my head, didn't she move here when she was like a child?
I didn't do
she
enough
was
research.
Very young. I mean, she grew up in the U.S.
Yeah, she's just Muslim.
Yeah, she was. Yeah. I think she was. She was just born somewhere else, and I think she moved in before the age of 5. She grew up in the U.S.
Yeah, for the most part, she is a refugee, though. So there's a lot of stuff that she still does have memories of and knows about because of being a first-generation immigrant. She's absolutely phenomenal as someone from Minnesota. That was actually one of the downsides of moving away from where I was before, is now I can't vote for her again.
Oh,
sad eyes.
Yes, she's Minneapolis. I'm St. Paul.
Gross.
Yeah.
So number 4 was when he called white supremacy a hoax.
Of course he did.
Oh.
Yeah. So this
white
was
supremacy is a
the
hoax.
whole thing.
Yeah, the whole thing. So
The entirety of it.
Yeah, a shooting in El Paso, Texas, where a gunman who was a self-identified white supremacist killed at least 22 people. He tried to claim the racist movement wasn't a problem in the United States, and it was a hoax similar in nature to Russia. He said, quote, white supremacy is actually not a real problem in America. He called white supremacy calling white supremacy an issue is a hoax and a conspiracy theory used to divide the country.
Wow.
Wild.
By them, by the people that want to divide the country because they want demographics of the country to either die or leave.
We love our little Tuckums here.
But
so
it's not a hoax. Jesus.
Number 3 is when he blamed wokeness on the spread of coronavirus.
Oh,
What? That
Yeah,
term?
in the early days of the pandemic, he pointed the finger at China and said that everyone should have been a bit more racist, and maybe, just maybe, it wouldn't have spread so fast. Of course, I'm being sarcastic.
Wow.
Wow.
His
what
quote
the
is, "Wokeness is a cult. They'll let you die before they admitted that diversity is not our strength."
what?
Can you just
Yeah.
say anything is anything now? Like, is that allowed? Like, Tucker can
Yes.
just say anything's a cult, and evolution's a religion. Anything can be anything.
Yeah.
What the fuck's going on?
Number 2.
What worries me is we've discussed on this podcast before that Donald Trump came within a hair's breadth of destroying democracy in the U.S. And I said the only thing that would make it worse is if somebody like him was smarter, and that's what I think Carson is.
Yeah,
he's a smarter version of Trump.
Yeah,
I think he might be smart enough though to know not to want to be the kingmaker and not the king.
Yes, yeah, I think
that could be true. So, number 2 was when he claimed Black Lives Matter protesters will come for you, and that the movement isn't about Black lives.
Oh God,
what is it about then?
Right. So this was, of course, following the death of George Floyd. So you thought that he'd be a little bit more kind. No, he said this may be a lot of things, this moment we are living through, but is definitely not about Black lives. And remember that when they come for you, and at this rate, they will.
Black.
I remember that. Oh yeah.
What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you?
Like, this is ridiculous.
Oh,
I mean, he's basically saying the black people are going to come for you. And
Yes, that's exactly what he's
super
saying.
fucking
He is so
racist.
Was he speaking to statues? Now, I mean,
Yeah.
maybe he's got a bunch of statue viewers. I don't know.
If you ever watch Bowling for Columbine from Michael Moore, in the movie, he's got this short 2-3 minute cartoon clip about the history of guns. And it is so brilliant because it's exactly what it says. It says as soon as they managed to free the slaves, the whites essentially escaped those suburbs, armed themselves, and are just waiting for the blacks to come for them. And to this day,
they still haven't come.
Fear is prevalent.
Yeah.
In the American side.
Is that the one where he went and just opened some doors in Canada and was able to just walk into people's houses because the doors were unlocked?
One of them.
Yeah. Okay.
That's awesome.
That doesn't happen in the city, but it absolutely happens in small towns. I used to sleep with my door unlocked all the time.
Wow.
Hey,
That's just crazy to us Americans. I'm just saying.
I was I mean, granted, I lived in the middle of St. Paul, and growing up, we didn't lock our door. I mean, at night we not locked our door, but during the day it was open for the most part.
Yeah. So anyway, number 1 is I didn't write anything other than the title because I'm hoping that you guys know about this, but if you don't, I do have some history here. Federal agents directly incited people on January 6th and intentionally entrapped American citizens. That's his conspiracy.
That was the documentary. Yeah.
That's the FBI.
Patriot Purge.
Yeah, he has zero evidence, but he's spouting it off like it's true.
He doesn't need evidence. No. Because they've covered this over and over and over and over and over again. They're not telling people facts. They're just giving their own personal opinions. That's his entire show. He's not using it as a news show. It's an opinion piece.
Oh, it absolutely is. Yeah, he went to court and basically even said that. His lawyers basically said nobody in their right mind would take Tucker Carlson seriously.
I remember that. That was recently, yes.
This is his defense.
That was probably against the documentary.
But it's also the same defense that Alex Jones used and everything like that. He's a character. It's not true. And blah, blah, blah. But the problem is they repeat it so often that the average idiot that's watching the show believes it after a while.
Yes.
That's the problem.
Yes, exactly. So there you go. 10 things that.
Tuckums.
All right. And let me just add one. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I just want to add one real quick to the list too, because this is the one that I always use when I'm in a debate about media. Is the time that he said that the pipes exploded in Texas was because Texas switched to the Green New Deal.
I
Texas, the oil tycoon capital of the fucking country, went green, and they bought it. Their viewers bought it. Yeah. But I didn't even have to look anything up. I knew that was bullshit.
Yeah, it's just an opinion piece, though.
My head hurts thinking about that. Oh God.
Oops.
All right, Benjamin. You got a moment to make us a...
Oh yeah, I think I've got one that's pretty good today.
Awesome.
All right, so let's see what we got here. So, according to this news report, they said a man who appeared to be in his 60s was dragged into the post office in the town of Carlow in Ireland on Friday, propped up by two younger men. When questioned by the staff, the two fled, leaving the older man, just leave him behind. So what they were trying to do is they were trying to show up there to collect his pension. But it turns out when they went up to the old man they left behind, the old man was dead.
Oh, they were weekend at Bernieing him.
Yeah,
oh, no.
they don't say his name here, but I'm assuming it was Bernie.
Oh, no.
Holy shit.
Oh, my God. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's so bad.
Oh, God.
So
we're here to collect Grandpa's check.
They're like, hey, it's Grandpa. And they're like, this guy's... Apparently they didn't do it very well because they immediately got a question and then they just ran away, right? Leaving the body behind him because, of course, what are you going to do with this body now? You got caught.
God, this is awful. Oh, my God. I mean,
according to the news report, one of the younger men had inquired about collecting someone's pension and was told that the recipient had to be present. So with the help of the companion, that's why they brought this dead man with them.
Did they walked him in, like tied his legs to their legs on each side, and
I'm assuming not. That's why.
Yes, Grandpa.
That's why it went poorly. I'm assuming because they just dropped him and ran away, right? Like
he's right here. See,
that's true. They must have just literally dragged him in his legs, like
set him on the ground, and they're like recipient or present. See,
he's present. Where that money is, give it up. Give it up.
You never said anything about being alive. Okay.
For a pension check in Ireland, what is that? $600?
Who knows?
I don't even
know. Maybe they piggybacked them in.
Oh my God!
Right? They just like do the fireman's throw over his shoulder and just hauled him in. They're like, look.
Oh, that is so funny.
Had to smell that, right?
Put him in a wheelchair or something. Push him in a wheelchair.
Right?
You know, so.
Well, they needed money. They didn't have wheelchair money.
That's what they needed.
Wheelchairs are not cheap.
Oh my
That's
God,
true.
this is awful.
Although it's universal health care, there it would have been covered.
Oh right.
But who's to think though? Like I can't even imagine. There's like sitting around. So I'm assuming they're probably related to this gentleman they dragged in, right? They knew that he was going to get his pension. They knew he had recently died. And they're like, we need to get that money. Like, what do you think we should do? How do we handle this? They're like, let's just bring his dead ass body in there.
Let's not go through any legal channels.
Or I like to imagine this moment of just complete serendipity where they're like, what are we going to do? How are we going to handle this? And they're just flipping through channels. And then Weekend at Bernie's is on. They're like, dude, now I know what to do. Let's go.
Got an idea.
I have a clue.
That's brilliant.
This is a long reference to movies from the 80s. You haven't watched that movie, you need to. It's a great movie.
Hell yeah.
I thought everyone knew Weekend at Bernie's, but you're right.
Oh,
Maybe
God.
they don't.
Yeah, like the two listeners there.
I was going to say the sad part is all I'm thinking of is they need to take notes from Dorothea Puente. I think it was Puente, who was a serial killer. Who that's part of what her thing was. Is she was collecting Social Security and pension benefits from people as she was holding them hostage and or killing them.
Mm-hmm.
Only she didn't have to Weekend at Bernie's because she was smart.
Right.
She did it for a long time before she got stupid and caught.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's why Ireland has this rules that they have to physically be present, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
very good.
Probably
point,
to prevent things like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Yeah.
Oh, Hertzy, I'm told you have a bit of a rant going on. Is that true, or do you have like a normal?
Oh, yeah, I have a rant. I have a rant.
Of the week this
Okay,
week.
I
so
know, but you know what? It's a rant, so I'm using my rant music.
do you want to rant, or do you want to just play the video first and then rant?
She's ranting.
Do not jump up right now
Okay, I won't.
and rebuke me for what I'm about to say.
Oh no, I'm gonna.
On 3 occasions, we're going to go through all of them, not today, thank God. On 3 occasions, kids were brought to Jesus. Not of their own will or their own volition, but by their parents.
Wait, okay. I was worried for a second.
That had epileptic
Parents brought 'em.
fits,
Okay.
anger issues, outbursts of emotion.
Burst like that.
And because we've called it possession,
What?
parents refuse to deal with it.
Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Are you telling me my kid's possessed? No, I'm telling you, your kid could be demonized and attacked, but your doctor calls it
Isn't
autism.
it the same thing? What?
What the fuck? Why are they cheering?
They're idiots.
Because it's a whole
I don't care if you
load
stand
of
or not.
bigots.
I don't care if you leave or not.
How
I'm
many
telling you, there's
microphones does he
deliverance in the
break?
name of Jesus Christ for your children and their children's children. There's deliverance in that. Ain't no such diagnosis in the Bible.
What?
Jesus cast out that oppressing spirit, and the child
answer
was
in the
made
Bible.
whole that very hour, the Bible said. That very hour.
Oof. Okay. Wow.
Okay.
Wow. I have to ask one question though. So, only children are possessed by demon if they're autistic. So if you're an autistic adult, you're okay.
I figure by that point he thinks that the demon either has left or they have exorcised the demon.
And then, right? So he said there's no diagnosis for autism in the Bible. There's no diagnosis for cancer in the Bible. So is cancer a demon infestation too?
Yes.
So everything not mentioned in the Bible is of demons. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Good.
Did he just watch that Carmen video we covered on Unapologetics where he like literally shoots a demon in what was it, infirmary?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe he's watching our show.
Oh,
I actually do have a written statement, so
All right.
Let's
I
do it.
have a
Go for it.
Let's play that rap music for you.
all right.
Let's get that going on in the background.
So, firstly, my apologies to the gropers. This week, you're going to have to find somebody else to throw pitiful insults at. Secondly, I would love to talk about Alex Jones, pleading the fifth at the January 6th committee, or how Roger Stone developed COVID, or Sabrina's awesome note about Tucker Carlson and the M&M's issue. But no, I get to scream about this instead. The bigot this week is Pastor Greg Locke, and he has hit several nerves as someone who is neurodivergent, or however you want to say, has mental health issues, and as someone who has family who works in mental health. Content warning for anybody. This is going to talk about autism, OCD, and epilepsy, and we're going to talk about the bigot who cannot handle these divergencies in children and seems to think they only affect children. Greg Locke, or Pastor Greg Locke, is from Tennessee and has made himself a name by protecting bathrooms. He has recently thrown in his lot with Trump and the anti-vax crowd and has the honor of joining the list of asshats who have been permanently kicked off of Twitter. Now he's decided to get us to the best of times, the Dark Ages. In a Sunday sermon titled Desperate for Deliverance, Locke showed everyone exactly how far his rabbit hole goes. He decided his expertise of the pretend needs to include mental health. He said that people who have decided to not deal with their children's fits, mood swings, and anger issues because, quote unquote, we call them possession, and no, I did not misspeak, we're talking about demon possession. Yes, indeed, parents of the audience, did you know for the low, low price of 10% of your gross income every week and full, complete obedience to Locke's God, all of your children's mental health issues can go away? And what evidence do we have for all of this? That there's no diagnosis in the Bible. I wonder why. Could it possibly be the things like autism, OCD, and epilepsy weren't named until 1911, 1895, and 1873, respectively? If the Bible did name them, we'd probably have more believers. BibleGateway.com actually did some work for me on this and listed out a whole bunch of ailments that they claim were in the Bible. But most of them, even they have to admit, really just boil down to a whole bunch of symptoms that could probably be about several different diagnoses. So yeah, let's just classify all of it under demon possession, that Jesus will magic away all of your children's mental health issues is just Dark Ages grade bullshit. What's next? Covering ourselves in shit to ward off COVID? Hell,
We already
even
did that. We already did
even the Catholic Church, and I actually have to quasi-defend the Catholic Church, allegedly tries to have a psychiatric diagnosis before calling in an exorcist. Congrats, Locke. A group of people best known as organized pedophiles are better than you.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm pissed. I am the angry atheist about this. I am angry for him and his congregation's children. I am angry for every person who will use this fucking shortcut when it comes to their family's mental health. I am angry that he has the audacity to think that there's a magic cure.
Okay, dear.
I wish every child mental issue would become a physical monster and haunt him for the rest of his life. Mental health isn't hard enough for people who face it without a 90s skate boy reject Locke attempting to cure it all.
Mm-hmm.
I wish there was a hell to throw him into, and there isn't. There are parents who will follow Locke and will go through his exorcism process. If the children are lucky, it won't kill them or scar them for life. They will have to go through this process over and over, thinking something is wrong with them. They will blame themselves for never being good or holy or devoted enough. They will be perfect victims for the disgusting abusers that are more than likely in Locke's or another's church. Their parents will never try to understand what is wrong. They will talk about other children cutting their own with a million tiny cuts until depression and anxiety become comorbidities that exacerbate their issues. Or a parent of, if they are lucky, they'll have a teacher or a parent of a friend who will give them that tiny bit of understanding that gets them through and hopefully out of this place where they can find out more about who they are. Others may never get the chance to see this and will spend their entire lives wondering how horrible they are, that they cannot exorcise the demon placed there by Locke. Locke, I hope you lose every ounce of influence you ever have on every person who has heard your voice. I hope you die alone and forgotten, most of all by the children whose lives you are destroying by this. And I hope you die like those who were preached into in the Dark Ages, scared, cold, and covered in shit, praying for salvation that will never come.
Man,
Yeah,
that was good, man. That was great.
Yeah, it is a major shitty thing, to do, for him. And it's just, it cuts deep. I could see it.
It does.
Right there, I think you expressed why people like Greg Locke are so dangerous.
Yep.
It's not because, they don't affect the adults so much. It's the children, it's the generation after that get to suffer the most.
Yep.
At the hands of delusions like that. So he can make more money off gullible fools. Thank you so much, Hertzy. That was deep. That was good.
Yes.
I really appreciate that.
Very, very, very much.
Tune in next week for my rant about Mouse.
I love it.
Perfect. All right, buddy. You got another brilliant moment for us?
I do.
You by religion.
That's right. So
is this one sad too? Because good goddamn.
I mean, not in that. No, this one's more funny, I think.
Okay.
Good.
I think it's dangerous, but not quite to that level. But it is quite dangerous too. But this week is about a woman named Sherry Tenpenny, like it's the number 10 with penny. Anyway, it's kind of funny.
Yeah. She's worth 10 cents, is what you're saying.
Anyway. Yeah, she puts in her 2 cents like 10 times,
Yeah.
Yeah. So she is a doctor of osteopathy, and which isn't medicine. It's alternative medicine, and if it were medicine, it'd just be called medicine. because that's how that works. She was part of the top 12 because there was only COVID disinformation was only being spread by about 12 people, right? She was at the top of that list.
Oh, nice.
Oh, I know this name. I knew I recognized it.
Right? Yeah, she likes she's been pushed. She was doing the anti-vax thing before it was cool. Okay.
Yeah.
She was a big supporter of Andrew Wakefield. Whose misleading claims led to millions of dollars wasted in redoing studies that had been, proven, and then we just proved the same thing over and over and over again. So I'm not even going to go into what his claims were; they were stupid and wrong. So she's got something else to say, and we'll watch the video, and then I got to break down because this is really funny. How ridiculous her claims are.
Let's play a video.
Oh, you got it. Okay.
Everyone but me can play.
I really believe that there's strong ramifications of what this COVID shot does to our genetics as a genetic modification technology, that our God-given genes, that there's one of us, when your dad's sperm and your mom's egg came together and God said, spark of life, there's never been another one of you ever, and there won't be in the future. It's God's gift to us, and Yahweh is actually written right across of our genes in the Hebrew language and Hebrew letters. And these COVID shots are actually going in and snipping those sulfide bonds and removing Yahweh from our genes. And actually, when you do all the spiritual, biblical texts and saying, our body is the temple of the Holy Spirit, and we volunteer to contaminate it, I think that that's a really, really big deal. And I think that those people who've taken the shot and start looking around at all the different ramifications of that, it's going to become a spiritual revival, Charlie. And about that people need to get back to God, and because they got vaccinated for one of two reasons, either out of fear or convenience.
Oh, yeah. So get this. I did some digging, right? Because I was really curious to figure out what this Yahweh written on our DNA thing is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I found a site that, and I think this might be and this has been claimed a bunch of times by different people, so I don't know which one specifically that she's talking about, but nothing in the Hebrew language translates to anything that is in the periodic table or anything like that. So that doesn't even make sense right there.
You don't even need to do that much research for that. This is just ridiculous to begin with.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. But I did find a website. Hold on one second. Let me get through this real quick because it's just I got to break it down. So I found a website that says it's based off of the fact that we are made up of hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, and carbon, right? And that spells. And they somehow say that spells YHWH, which would be like Yahweh without any vowels, right?
Oh, fuck.
But they already have letters corresponding with that in the periodic table. It's HNOC. And then I was like, okay, so that's not that. And then I checked. I was like, okay, well, maybe the numbers that go with it, the atomic numbers, are they correspond with the alphabet. No, it's AGHF. But if you even looking at it, just a cursory glance, you see YHWH. Hold on, there's two of the same letter repeated.
Yeah.
So their whole thing was somehow they got from these letters to those letters, but they knew that somebody would immediately go, "Why are you repeating the same element twice?" Right? Yeah. And so they said, "Oh, well, you got to switch out the carbon because that's what makes us human, and then switch it with nitrogen." And that means that it's all unseeable gases, AI God.
Oh, for fuck's sakes.
They do realize that those unseeable gases become liquid and solid at some point, right? And then are therefore seeable. I mean, I have to start there.
Right.
Okay. But did you ever see that lady with the Monster Energy can, and she was trying to say it was evil? Yes! Because the way the M looks, it looks like a 6 in Hebrew, which means they're saying 666.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
It's the same thing, right?
It's pareidolia.
So
actually, that one's closer than the thing they're grasping for.
Yeah.
I mean, this person is obviously realizing that apparently Yahweh writes chemistry not by the chemical, like the periodic table, but by the English language. It's not the Chinese. It's not the Hebrew. It's not Aramaic. It's not Greek. It's the English language. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You goddamn morons.
No, Kevin. America is God's country, making English God's language.
Yeah, that's right.
The Americentrism that goes on with this stuff always just creeps me the fuck out.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
And wow. You might remember this lady because she is the one that started the claim, or possibly started the claim. Again, she was one of the 12 that do this sort of thing. That, get this, that vaccines magnetize people and connect them to 5G cell phone towers.
Yeah.
Guess what connects you to 5G cell phone towers? Cell phones, you fucking idiot. We all have them already.
No, I want sweet magnetic powers. Please be true. Please be true.
It would be
You guys ever watch that video where this woman's in she's at a city hall or something. Yeah, it's magnetic, and then she takes a key and just.
I thought it was a spoon on her forehead, but anyway.
It's so stupid. But you know, there's some light at the end of the tunnel because that magnetic thing that disappeared.
Yeah, very quickly.
Some of these conspiracy theories stayed, but some of them disappear. So I think it's almost like throw something at the wall and see if it sticks with these people.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and a lot of that was from the Band-Aid. These fucking idiots, it leaves sticky stuff on your arm. So they were just like putting it on in the Band-Aid, just the residue.
Perspiration, it just holds for
exactly.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, especially because keys are brass, which aren't magnetic
to begin with.
There's that too.
God, these people.
Anyway,
Bradley, thank you so much for that. Much appreciated.
I did way too much research on that. I'm going to admit, I did way too much. I was trying to find that code in there somewhere. Okay,
yeah.
I was like, how did they get here?
So
still nothing.
Let's take a quick pause, and when we come back, we'll be with Randolf Richardson of Canadian Atheists. So,
it's where atheists gather. This is LATV 2.0. This is where the atheists gather. This is home. This is LATV 2.0.
I'm Amy with a Y.
And I'm Amy with an I.
And we're the hosts of Secular Soup, where each week we offer up a bowl of real talk about atheism, feminism, politics, parenting, and whatever else we want to talk about because it's our podcast.
Just listen to what these random dudes are saying about our show.
This is what would happen if Daria and Jane grew up and started a podcast.
So if you like extremely foul-mouthed ladies with opinions, this is the podcast for you.
Grab a bowl and taste the magic. Slurp even this.
Hi, I'm God, and I just wanted to make sure to tell you not to listen to Unapologetics on Stitcher and SoundCloud. That's Unapologetics with an X at the end. But, definitely do not listen to this show. I mean, I swear to me, alright, I will murder my son. I kind of already did that, but don't listen to the show, okay? Hey, Lucy.
Can you not call me that, okay? We already went over what my name is, okay? It's Lucifer.
Alright, look, Luce. You wanna come with me? I'm gonna go fuck with this guy, Joe.
No, don't do that, okay? Can you just leave him alone?
Yeah, I'm gonna kill his family.
No, don't do that.
I'm gonna give him sores all over his body.
Don't do that. That's disgusting.
And, I'm gonna kill all of his livestock.
Stop saying things. Just stop.
And I'm gonna blame the whole thing on you. Alright, let's go, bud. Remember, don't listen to Unapologetics on Stitcher and SoundCloud.
Hey, definitely listen to that show. It's awesome. It's really cool. He's really a dick.
I heard that.
All right, our next guest is the head of Canadian Atheists. He's a past champion returning to us. He's a snappy dresser and a snazzy dancer. Randolf Richardson, thank you for coming back to Left in the Valley. Good, sir.
Oh, thank you for such a great introduction. I appreciate it.
Get the large applause. We spare no expense here.
Ken Hovens.
For those of us who might have missed the first time you were around on the show, maybe you'd be so kind to give us a quick intro as to who Randolf Richardson is.
Sure. Yeah, I started an organization a number of years ago called the Canadian Atheists. I guess it's been close to 8 years now, to advocate for atheism in Canada and hopefully have an influence around the world as well. Because I think every national atheism organization does have this opportunity. We're trying to, I guess you could say, level the playing field in a sense, because what happens is there are theists who will get preferential treatment just because they're part of a religion. And we want atheists to have exactly the same opportunities, to be treated equally, in accordance with our freedom in our Charter of Rights and Freedoms. That's part of the Canadian Constitution under Section 2, and Section 15.1, which prohibits discrimination. One of the examples where this is probably, people have seen this more than any other example, would be when somebody comes knocking on your door to present their religion, and they find out that I'm an atheist, and the reaction is, "Oh no, we're so worried about you," etc. And it's a little bit condescending, but I don't think they really mean it that way. But when they encounter other theists, the reaction is, "Oh, okay, that's normal." What we're wanting is for people not to go out of their way and do all this extra condescending stuff, and just simply treat us like the theists. Say, "Oh, okay, like this is normal," because in our view, it's normal to not believe things.
Yes, I would agree. So you've been the head of Canadian Atheists, and I'm looking at you, Randolph. You're a pretty good-looking guy too, right? I think it helps.
Yes. Oh,
come on now,
Kevin. What have I told you about flirting on the show?
Right?
We're gonna have to make this an official rule. I knew it.
Anyway, so, on the show, Randolph, as you can tell, we're very serious.
Totally.
But we do get a serious tone once in a while. The show has this great particular advantage that we have Canadians and Americans on the show, and we often make comparisons between our two countries.
I would just like to point out something: Canadians are Americans as well.
Yes, thank you. I've tried to tell Kevin this over and over and over again.
We are all North Americans. Yes, I agree.
Anyway,
but I think
we're not USA though.
No true American.
I think a lot of our listeners understand what's going on in the U.S. as far as atheism is concerned, but they don't really understand what goes on in Canada as far as atheism is concerned. Right. That's why we get you on. So maybe you'd be so kind to go over some of the differences between our two respective countries.
Well, one of the first ones is political, and I try not to get into politics very much because I find, in general, politics don't make people happy. But
don't worry, this entire show has been about politics so far.
It has
so
been, yeah.
By all means, go right ahead into it if you want.
I don't know how you keep up the happiness then.
Drugs and drinking. Drugs and drinking.
Oh, that explains it. So we have we have more than two political parties here. We have like 5 major political parties to choose from in our federal elections, whereas in the US, they just have 2 major parties. And so I notice there's a lot of polarization that comes through very strongly in countries that only have 2 parties to choose from. Whereas when there's more, people don't seem to get so polarized. They seem to go off in different directions. And I think that's healthier for society to have a minimum of 3 political parties that have very different views. And I'm concerned about what I see going on in the U.S. because the polarization really comes out when you see things like what happened last year on January 6th when the insurrection into the Capitol. And that was a very sad moment for democracy, I think, because I feel like all those people there, the 120,000 that were there, according to FBI's estimates, is just they don't understand how democracy is supposed to work, is the impression I'm left with. And I really think that there's a lot of room for improvement in there. There's also room for improvement here in Canada. We've done some silly things, like under the previous government, we had a Department of Religion pop up, and it only serves religions. It won't serve atheists. I called and asked, and they said, "Sorry, you have to be part of a religion or we can't help you." And I thought, this is a violation of our charter rights because it is discriminating against us. Again, a violation of Section 15.1. And so I believe that department has been shut down. I haven't heard anything more about it.
Yeah, to note, the previous government was a conservative government.
Yeah.
So that's no surprise as to why there was a Department of Religion.
Right-wing religious conservative, I think we should probably specify. Yeah.
And the The thing about the U.S. too is we don't just have two political parties. We have right-wing party and right-wing party light.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's it, really.
Oh my gosh. There's no left party?
Not really.
Not
no.
really.
Not
We got-
In comparison to the rest of the world,
Yeah.
our left-wing Democrats are right-wing in other countries. Like
Absolutely.
We have like 7. I think we counted 7 like progressive candidates or politicians, and they're all in the House pretty much, and we got like 1 in the Senate. So everything dies pretty much.
I always made the comparison that, they talk about Bernie Sanders in the States as being far left. He can be centrist anywhere else in the world.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's true.
See, we do have some other things going on in Canada. Like recently, we had the anti-conversion therapy laws that are illegal, and these laws have real teeth in them. You not only can you not do conversion therapy here, you also can't forcibly move people out of the country to get conversion therapy elsewhere. You can't advertise conversion therapy here, and even if it's conversion therapy services in another country, you're not allowed to advertise it here. So I think these are reasonable restrictions, because the conversion therapy stuff that is predominantly done by Christians, as far as I know, is really the opposite of proper psychotherapy.
Yep. Yeah, it's harmful.
Yeah, it's just made up. It's made up by whoever's doing it at the time that they're doing it, and they're just like, I don't know, I kind of feel like the ghost in my head thinks we should do this.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's so true, though.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm glad that these rules have been put in place. We had some stuff a little more recently with there's a Dr. Jordan B. Peterson, who was a tenured professor, and he made some anti-LGBTQ kind of statements, and that put him into the limelight. He became very popular and amongst right-wingers, but I noticed he was very careful in his approach. He was a Canadian professor, and he was very careful in his approach to try not to alienate himself from any particular demographic, the atheist demographic as well as the theistic one. But when he was at the Chan Center for Performing Arts here in UBC, up in British Columbia here, he was talking with Matt Dillahunty, and that was put on by my good friend Travis Pangburn. He hosted that event. And what they did, he was talking about how atheists are all Christians, but we just don't know it. So of course that's obviously false. That's just not true. And then Matt Dillahunty asked him, what would a true atheist be like in his view? And his response was that a true atheist would be like Raskolnikov from the novel A Crime and Punishment, be going around murdering people. So that's also not true. Maybe you can find 1 or 2 if you really look hard, but I don't, because serial killers are real. It exists, but there aren't very many of them out there. If there were, our populations would be a lot smaller. But, I take issue with him on those things. And those are examples of the vilification and the promotion of the stigma against atheists that we're pushing back against. I even offered to him to debate with him in a live debate on these topics. And I never heard back from him. I assume he's very busy, though, because he's got a huge fan base. But in that one, it came out that he's a Christian. And so he tried to weasel around it, but Matt Dillahunty didn't let him get away with that. So that was good.
Yeah,
he just popped up like really recently. He just popped up. Was it with Joe Rogan?
Yeah, he was. He just. That's what I was going to say. He just did an interview with Joe Rogan talking about how the climate change doesn't matter because the word climate just means everything. And what is everything? If it's everything, it's nothing. What the fuck is this philosophy shit when we're talking about science?
And then he also said that the Bible is like the foundation for truth. It's like, holy crap, dude. I mean, he has no idea. His 15 minutes of fame is long overdue, I think.
I don't know if you know this, Kevin, but truth contradicts itself.
It's a metaphysical substrate,
That's true, by truth being false, but being true.
The truthier truth.
I saw a meme on the internet recently that somebody's asking about this list of the world's top 50 intellectuals, and they're asking why Jordan Peterson isn't on it, and somebody responded, because it's a list of the top 50 intellectuals.
Thank you. Yes.
Good one. I love it.
Response.
maybe Randolph, maybe for the benefit of our American friends, Canadian atheists, have different fights essentially that what the American atheists will face down the south.
Sure.
What are maybe some of the biggest fights Canadian atheists are facing right now in our country?
Well, we haven't really had big fights. We have, of course, we've been focusing on trying to get events going, but the COVID-19 pandemic, of course, put the kibosh on all of that because we don't want to contribute to the spread of the virus. But we still have all those plans in waiting, so we're looking forward to hopefully doing something later this year if everything turns out well with the pandemic coming under control. Things are looking better, although with the recent protests going on, I'm a little worried.
We talked about that earlier. How do you feel about that as an atheist? I'm just curious.
As an atheist,
with the Freedom Convoy, or even as a Canadian, or both.
Well, as a Canadian, I can tell you, as an atheist, it wouldn't really be relevant, other than the fact that there's probably a lot of religious people there pushing a view. But what they're pushing isn't really a religious view; it's a misinformed medical view that's popular among a lot of religious people. So, for myself, my understanding is there are a couple of things happened. Over $4 million was raised by GoFundMe, and
almost $8 million.
Sorry.
It's almost $8 million now.
Oh, it's doubled since last I heard. Wow. And that's incredible. And they had, it really shows the power of the numbers that they have, right? And there's some concerns from GoFundMe about the accountability of those funds, where they're going to get spent. So they put it on hold for a while. I don't know if it's still on hold. I heard they released
some.
Some. Okay. So what I've heard is correct. And so there's that, which is, I guess, good. They haven't released it all, which is good.
Yes,
so
they have to account for
that's what I meant to say. But there was concerns about, and they put our prime minister into an undisclosed location because they're concerned about some of the extremists that are involved in this group, and some of the extremists that there's apparently some concerns about the organizer of the event as well. May have some kind of leanings there. I'm not really clear on the details of that, but this to me, of course, everybody has the right to protest peacefully, and so far the protests have been peaceful. Mm-hmm. They're not wearing the masks in accordance with our regulations, though, and that's a problem. So there's a serious health concerns that I have, because this is how the virus is spread and evolve, and new strains come about quickly. When there's large numbers of people, it's a greater opportunity for that, and that puts us all at a greater risk of a new strain coming about that we can all end up suffering from, or some people at least. And that really needs to be stopped. That part of it to me is unacceptable and totally irresponsible. And my other understanding I have is there's people with other agendas that are joining the protest as well, so there's a larger number.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Do you feel that as atheists in Canada here, that we have an issue with the provincial funding of religious schools?
Of religious groups, like the churches getting taxes, yes, tax exempt status. I do think that we shouldn't be doing that. We recently contributed some money toward the research that the BC Humanists is doing on this, and they've actually issued a report, and you can find that in the bulletin section of our website at www.canadianatheists.ca. It's a professionally produced report that it puts out all the statistics and all the numbers. It's a very interesting read. I haven't gotten through it all yet, but I've read part of it, and I highly recommend it. The BC Humanist does tremendously great work here, and they're very active, and they're kind of known all across Canada, so good for them because they've done so well. There was a group calling themselves an atheist church a number of years ago here in Canada, and they requested tax exempt status just because they don't believe in deities. And so, I understand what they're doing is they're trying to drive the point home about religion getting tax exempt status, but I disagree with their request to do that. They were denied, which I agree with, and they went up, I believe, to the Supreme Court or some sort of a court that decided, and their decision was that atheism is not a religion, which I think is a beautifully correct decision, because it's accurate, and it flies in the face of many theists who try to say atheism is a religion, and of course that it's not. We're not a religion at all. We're just a demographic, a classification, if you will. And so they So they, of course, didn't get tax-exempt status. Now, the reason we don't ask for it is because we believe that if there's going to be tax-exempt status, like it would go for something like a charity or something like that. That makes sense. Like the Children's Hospital, Canadian Blood Services. I donate there every 2 months, by the way, and I encourage everyone to donate blood if you can. And there's they're a great organization as well. And so a lot of these religious institutions are not charities, and yet they're getting treated a little bit like a charity by getting tax-exempt status. I think that's wrong. I think that's tax revenue that could really go to helping poor people. It could eliminate the need for soup kitchens if it's managed really, really well. And but that money is just not available because the taxes aren't being paid, because that money is not being paid by the churches. So I have a problem with this. I think there is an ethical obligation that's not being met properly in our society by these churches arbitrarily getting the tax-exempt status. Now, some people will say, oh, but some churches are set up as charities and they're going out there and helping people. Good for them. They deserve charitable status for that. I'm talking about tax-exempt status. And that's the thing that really is the issue there.
Yeah, I have to.
Yeah. But a lot I was talking to, for a long time ago, to a guy named Luke, and he's in Alberta. And he was telling me a problem that I think most Canadians and even atheists are not aware of.
Okay.
Is that there is provincial funding. It depends. It varies from province to province. In America, it would be from state to state, of religious schools being funded by the public purse.
Oh yeah, they do private school.
Yeah, I mean,
public funding for private schools.
In the States, they do the separation of church-state thing, and if you want a private religious school, you got to come up with your own funding. Mm-hmm. Is there something that we can do up here as Canadian atheists to convince the government to stop funding? I mean, especially since our public schools are having a lack of funding right now. It seems to me we should be pulling the funding from the private religious schools and giving it to the public schools.
Yeah.
And also the kids can actually have the materials they actually need to have to study.
My understanding is that what's happened is that a long time ago, people were championing for the right to decide where the money allocated for their own kids goes. And so they could reallocate to a private school instead, or an independent school. And then that way, but it unfortunately takes it out of the public coffers. And I'm not in agreement with that. At the time when it happened, it was justified because the understanding of learning disabilities and things like that just wasn't there. And some of the private schools were more specialized in that and able to provide better support. But now the public schools are actually very well set up for that, and there's a very good understanding of these things. There's still more to learn, of course. I'm not saying they understand everything, but the grades that we see coming out of the private schools as well as the public schools on average works out to the same. And they both rank in the high ends as well as the low ends. So there's really no benefit to doing that. So what we need to do is stop allowing the funds to be redirected away from our public system. And one of the ways that we can do that as well, I think, is to get rid of this tax-exempt status and other benefits that religious institutions have just for being religious institutions. Because a lot of those private schools, I've found out, talking to different people working at them, is that the administration end of things over the years is that the reason they teamed up with a religious organization is like a church or something, is so that they could get the benefits that the religious institution gets. And the trade-off is they need to preach the Bible in class and all this kind of stuff. So that's where it ends up mixing together. And that's an inappropriate use of our resources. I think we need to remain more on the secular end of things. Yeah, so if the schools are going to be private schools, then they need to be able to stand on their own merits. I think for a school to get some kind of tax-exempt status would actually be okay, as long as they're following along with the curriculum, and most of the time they are. But I just, this is, to me, it's a sneaky way to gradually bring in creationism being taught as if it's somehow comparable to science and evolution and all. It's not. It's a completely different thing.
Do you feel? I've always felt that it seems to me that creationism and all that it's an import from the United States, and I feel that unfortunately there's a lot more of the stuff that's coming across the border, and for lack of a better term, invading us up here. maybe as the representative for Canadian Atheists, is that something you see a lot of, or am I just bonkers here?
I just heard on the radio the other day that it's been pretty steady for many decades now that we see about 5,000 Americans immigrating to Canada every year. And so I haven't checked this. I just heard them talking about it on the radio. And I thought that, well, that's interesting. But there is more demand and more interest, demand for and interest in the immigration process when Trump first got elected. So that we know there's going to be a lot more people interested in moving, and apparently there have been a few more applications, but how much higher it is, I don't know. What I do encounter is people from all over the world trying to get out of their countries, and they're asking us if we are an immigration law firm, basically. And we're not immigration consultants. But we can certainly try to help direct people to them if they don't, because they're not familiar with Canada, because we know lawyers who do immigration, but we're really not in that business, so we don't have the specialization in it. So that's, and we have directed people over to other immigration people in the past. We also directed a few of them whose lives were in danger to an organization called SUN, run by a lovely lady here named Courtney Heard, I think is her name. And please correct me if I'm wrong, if you know who she is. And they've been successful at helping some of the people that we've got in contact with, and the ones who are serious about moving. And so, right away, the process is tell as few people as you can about what you're doing. When it's time to move, get rid of your cell phone so they can't track you, things like that. And Sun takes care of all these details with them, far more detailed than that. And they help them, and they help them get on their feet. And they've been doing really well with that. So they're doing some fantastic work. So that's kind of what we're seeing, is that there's interest from all over the world to come here. I suspect that we're not the only country that's like this. There's probably many other countries that experience that as well. And one thing that I've found out over the years happens too is a lot of people who can't immigrate directly to the U.S., they'll immigrate to Canada and use us as a stepping stone to then immigrate further to the U.S.
Sounds like a downgrade to me.
Yeah, me too.
I was gonna say, can you just tell them to stop here, because the U.S. is not great.
Yeah.
Well, some of those people are very capitalistic. All they want is to make a lot of money. So I'm actually okay with them not sticking around. If that's all they want to do.
Fair. Can we have an exchange program then?
Yeah, we'll trade. Do
Justin
trade.
Bieber.
I joke around and tell people one day we'll take Alaska back. They say, you and what army? We go back and forth. And then they finally say, okay, if your army's so strong, why don't you take Alaska now? And I say, oh, we're just waiting for Sarah Palin to leave.
Okay, well, you're waiting for Alaska, though. Minnesota is just right here. We're right below you. Just saying.
So many people from Minnesota, even some who recently moved there, saying there was a plan in the past for Minnesota to become part of Canada, and they want to bring this back to life.
Really?
I am all for this.
She's a double agent all of a sudden.
I will become that double agent.
You will lose your guns and you will gain health care, and apparently that's a showstopper for some.
I never quite understand that, because I live in the middle of the Twin Cities, and as rural Minnesota will put it, Murderapolis. Yeah.
Oh.
And it's one of those, it's like, I don't have any guns or anything, because it's like, why?
Yeah.
The funny thing is you wouldn't really lose your guns anyway.
No, not at all. You could have them
guns
here.
in Canada.
Yeah, they have this idea that it's like this and a lot of it's fed by people like Alex Jones and such, of they're gonna come for your guns. It's that fear thing. But at the same time, I'm going, okay, but then we get health care. That's free. But then they get all upset about the government going into it. But then don't bring up that Roe v. Wade is going to,
We need to connect here. We need to tell them that with this included health care that doesn't cost them anything, they'll finally be able to get all their old gunshot wounds healed.
I was just gonna say they want the right to be able to hurt people, but not to heal themselves. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I still got a bullet here in my left eye. You want to get that out for me?
I say, what would probably happen is people would still be allowed to keep their guns, but there'd be restrictions on how they could keep them. They'd have to keep them in storage and stuff, because we have here that if you're going to transport your gun, you have to make sure that you have the plan communicated to the RCMP, our federal police force, first, and the alternate routes you'll take if the main route is blocked for some reason. It's very
only for handguns though.
Oh my! You mean I can't just walk around Target with my AR-15?
No. Well, see, the thing is, it's different with long guns. Long gun rules are different. So
I've seen this.
You just, yeah.
That's another part that just drives me nuts, because I'm like, what in Target is so goddamn dangerous?
Okay, but also I live in Texas.
You clearly haven't been to a Black Friday sale. Okay.
Do you know that in the state of Texas, I can carry a concealed handgun without even a license?
I know.
That's crazy.
I don't even need a license anymore. I can also carry a full sword around if I want to. I mean, if I wanted to.
Well, you should do that, because that's just,
that's
pretty badass. I know.
Really.
Yeah. I was gonna say, my big thing with the differences between a sword and a like an AR weapon is, like, AR is usually what, semi-automatic at least.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of damage you can do. There's really only so much damage you can do with the sword.
Depends on how good you are with it.
Hold handgun.
My old sensei used to say that it would be a better world if everybody could walk around with a sword. And at the time I laughed at it. He says, no, think about it. He says, you could be 20 feet away and pull out your gun. He said, but when you're 5 foot away from a guy in front of you who's got the same sword, that takes a lot more guts than people have.
Yeah.
And it's true. It's very, very true.
Yeah.
I'm conjuring up images of the movie Big Trouble in Little China here for some reason.
You know what old Jack Burton used to say.
All the reflexes.
So good.
That was a good movie.
Randolph,
It was great.
Years ago, I saw a story, and I should have pulled a story. I think it was in 2017, where Montreal went to a church. The city of Montreal went to a church and basically said they basically cut away their tax-exempt status for most of the property, except for just a part of the church. They said, we're going to tax the rest of the property. The church is where you do your worship and all that. And I thought that was a brilliant story. And somehow it just flew under the radar. So the city came in and basically said, yeah, we're going to tax the property, except for the one part where you actually do your churchy thing. But the rest of the place where the priest lives and all that stuff, that was all taxed. And I'm thinking, how come this just flew under the radar right there for all these politicians?
Are you sure that wasn't a fake story on the Onion or something?
This was on CTV News.
Okay.
This sounds like progress to me.
Yeah, it does.
Yes, and this was years ago, and I'm thinking, how come this story just flew under the radar? How come we're not doing this more? We should totally say that, do this to all the properties of churches.
It's not enough progress, though, but it is progress nonetheless.
Yes.
Yeah, I really don't like the idea of my tax subsidizing the taxes I pay, subsidizing these organizations because of the wicked ideas that they promote, the bigotry they promote, and other bad ideas that they promote.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, as head of Canadian Atheists, what do you think is the most pressing battle for atheists in Canada right now?
Mainly, it's finding and developing community. I think that's the big issue. Because we don't have regular gatherings, and we wanted to, but the COVID-19 pandemic stopped that for a bit. I'm looking at doing some stuff online, but it's not the same. We need to have the in-person get-togethers, and so we're wanting to do that. And things were looking really good beginning of the year, or the end of last year for this year, and then suddenly, variant flares up, and we've got issues there, but I'm glad that we're seeing mandates now being put in place, because people have had more than enough time to get themselves vaccinated. I was talking to one person last week who I was helping with something, and he's an older fellow. He turns out he's not vaccinated at all. He's been watching Fox News, and so I convinced him to get vaccinated. So he went to see his doctor, and he's going to find he has a heart condition. He's in his 80s, but so I said, talk to the doctor, and I told him how it works. So the vaccine is not, you don't have the real virus with this one. It mimics the virus somehow, so it can't hurt you anyway. And I said, if you're feeling tired afterwards, that's a good sign. It means your immune system's working. So yeah, so talk to your doctor, because you got the heart condition, and your doctor will get you on the right track. And if you have to do something special to get it, they'll be able to arrange that. So that'll be I'm hoping he'll end up getting fully vaccinated by the end of the year. So you have to wait before the second one and on and on. Sorry, go ahead.
So it's real hard essentially to have Zoom meetings for atheists because baby eating is not the same, right?
Yeah, it's better when you share babies.
Yeah, that's one of the things I'm trying to push back against, actually. So I'm glad you raised that joke, because that joke comes around a lot in certain communities, and the whole baby eating thing is actually a point of vilifying atheists. So to me, it's an important point to do. And I'm not trying to scold you. Don't worry. It's just I'm addressing the joke itself. Again, thank you for raising it. The people will make remarks about how badly atheists behave in certain ways and do certain things, and so I'm trying to present atheism in a manner that we're not doing these kinds of things, and to show people that hey, you can talk with us, and we're not out there to get you. Like with Canadian Atheists, we're not even trying to deconvert people, because I feel very, very strongly that if a person leaves their religion because they were pressured to do so, the chance of it being a genuine exit is not 100%. But if they've chosen entirely on their own and they just got people giving welcome support without trying to push them over that edge, then, if they're asking for help, that's one thing. But most of the time, people just need their own time to sort it out on their own. And then leaving, that's better, because I think it has it's more genuine that way. They're practicing their own intellectual sovereignty completely on their own, and that's one of the most important things, I think, for everybody, is to have that. We have people who are deconverting, and one of my good friends, Neil, the 604 Atheist, you were on his show recently, Kevin, and that was a great episode. He's been running hundreds of these over the years now, and what I've learned from it, as I've always been an atheist, I don't have the experience of leaving a religion, so it's helpful to me to get more perspective. And one of the things I learned from it was that people who've left their religion, sometimes they're still terrified of going to hell, even though they don't believe in their god or goddess anymore. Right. So it's not always an all or nothing proposition for many people. For many people, there's different things take more time to exit, to shake off than others. And so that's a valuable piece of information. That's partly why it's so important not to push people into or out of a religion. It's just something they have to kind of figure out on their own. Sure, if they ask for help, we can give them suggestions, point them to things, and talk with them, but pushing them is the wrong approach, I think. So. And this is where a sense of community is so important, because then you can have a community of people gathering and talking about different things. And, this funny expectation, another one that comes up in addition to that example about the baby eating, is that people say, oh, atheists get together, all they do is they bash on religion. They'll only talk about religion.
I love that one. I love that stereotype so much, because when we were before times, I would go to a weekly thing. It was called Godless Gamers. And it was all we did is played board games. That was it. The number of times religion would come up, and so many times when that stuff would come up, we'd just be like, yeah. Okay, can we get back to talking about some other geeky crap? Yeah. We need to debate why Gandalf and needed to go do his stuff during The Hobbit, or anything else.
Anything but religion.
Or host a debate between Gandalf and Dumbledore.
Oh, that'd be good right there. I would pay to see that one.
Brent, we did that.
But you can tell.
I know, and I'd pay to watch it. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I can tell I'm in good company here on Left in the Valley.
Randall.
But that's exactly what I'm expecting will happen with these gatherings, because we've managed to have a few in the past, and it has worked out that way. And people are talking about all sorts of different things because people are interesting. And I tell people that atheism is among the most diverse demographics in the world, because the only thing that we all definitely have in common is not believing in any deities, not believing in any goddesses or gods. And that leaves the board wide open for all kinds of other interests, because we're not required to conform to any standards, other than kind of legal stuff, of course, but everybody has to deal with that. Yeah.
Randall, one last quick question for you. In the past, when I compare Canadian atheists to American atheists, and American atheists in the past had two types of president. Right now, they have a president that's kind of like, I wouldn't say subdued, but quiet, doesn't create a whole lot of waves. But if you compare it to the president before that, he was bombastic. He was on all the shows. He was in your face.
I'm talking about David Silverman. Yeah.
David Silverman, exactly.
Yeah.
What kind of approach you think is actually more beneficial for us?
I think for us, the more gentle approach, because with Canadian culture, we don't see a whole lot of people out there pushing religion or pushing politics. I bring them both up because they make a good even parallel to help people who might not see that the case with one is seeing it with the other. And so, like my neighbors, my whole neighborhood, I don't see anybody wearing religious costumes or religious jewelry or stuff. And when I go to the store, I don't see that. Once in a while, you see somebody with that, but it's very rare. Whereas when I've traveled to the U.S., I see a lot more of that sort of thing. And it seems that like here, people generally think of these as private matters. So they're not in your face with it all the time. Whereas in the U.S., there seems to be more, people are more fierce with it and more ferocious and more, I guess, out there advertising it. They advertise their political parties, they affiliation, they advertise their religion, and some people, not all, but some people there even pick their friends depending on whether they have a matching political view and matching religious views. And that I think is very, very sad, because here I have many friends who are religious and they know I'm an atheist, and the topic almost never comes up because we have lots of other interests. And so I think that this approach works better here. In the US, I think the more bombastic approach works better for an atheism organization. And as we can see, American Atheists grew tremendously under that, right? With the firebrand atheism being promoted and whatnot. So it's each country, I think it's a different approach, and it's tied in directly into the culture of the populace.
Randolph, thank you so much for being on the show with us today. But before we let you go and all that, what's next for Canadian Atheists? Anything coming up on the books there or anything?
We are planning to do some get-togethers. We've been working on an event that I've talked about before last time when I was on, but we couldn't do it because of the pandemic. So it'd be a national convention, and we'll probably do it here in BC, of course, because that's where we are. And we have the insurance figured out. We have the marketing figured out. We have some venues. We got to do that part again because it's been a few years, but we had some venues figured out that could seat up to 500 people, some of them. So the idea is we'd bring speakers in, and the ticket prices would cover the cost for bringing speakers in and their accommodations and things like that. So we want to make sure that we have an interesting event where people can also get to meet each other, and also have the dinners with the guests that come to present and whatnot as well. So that's what we want to do in the future. Hopefully we can do it this year if things go really well with handling the pandemic. But we got to make sure it's safe. Like, one of the requirements too is that people can come internationally to Canada and enjoy these events without having to go through tons and tons of things that they have to go through now, like I guess there's the quarantine periods and things like that can slow them down. So, because we'll be on a schedule, obviously, and
Sorry, by saying BC, do you mean Lower Mainland of BC?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Just checking. That's where we are. So
I suggest you do that in Abbotsford.
No, not Abbotsford.
No,
Let's
the Bible
go
Belt, the Buckle Bible Belt. You want the Canadian Atheists to be there.
Then you got to go to Mission.
Yeah, whatever. Randolph, thank you so much for being on the show today. It's always a pleasure to have you, my friend. But before I let you go, I got to have you say, hi, this is Randolf Richardson of Canadian Atheists. I took a left at the valley.
Hi, I'm Randolf Richardson of the Canadian Atheists, and I turned left at the valley.
And that was Randolf Richardson. Great guy.
Yeah.
Now, I hope...
I'm going over to his house for some bread, so we got to hurry up.
Yeah, that was the bread machine that you heard there.
Yeah.
So good. The audio, that was
no,
a bread
it's
machine.
no problem.
I think this was a bit of a illuminating thing about some of the differences between the two countries, between Canada and the US.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to say you definitely have atheism in Canada, but it's nowhere near as under attack as it is in the US.
Correct. I totally agree with that.
There are some Christian right up here, but they're nowhere near as wacky. The big battle always happens in the US.
Mm-hmm.
Here in Canada, we're privileged. I mean, I walk around with a T-shirt saying "Warning, Scathing Atheists." I'm not attacking the street,
Not at all. People would just kind of go, "Oh, cool, sure. Where'd you get it from?"
Yeah, pretty much. You never have to worry about that. the battles are different and the approaches are different, and maybe there's some things Canadians can learn about Americans, how they handle their atheism and the religious right. Maybe there's some things the Americans can learn about us and how we deal with some of the stuff as well. So anyway, I hope this was illuminating for you guys. And any comment?
I used to wear the shirt that we had made just to get into arguments. But essentially, we just took a white T-shirt and wrote on a black marker, "If God didn't want abortions, there wouldn't be coat hangers."
Oh,
nice.
Perfect. I love it.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
I love it.
Yeah, so we'll hear more about Randolph down the road, I'm sure, and hopefully, we, like I said, we can learn more about the differences in our countries, and and hopefully we can learn more about helping each other out. Because after all, we're all in the same battle. What happens in the States, as far as atheism, like I said, comes across the border here eventually.
Yeah.
Right. So it's as Canadians, I think it's part of it's in our best interest to help the battle like going on in the States, what the American atheists are facing in the States before it spills too much. Because Christians are always on the warpath. They're always they're trying to spread their dominionism.
Yeah.
So it's for us to stop them.
I agree.
Yeah, sometimes it comes over the border in caravan form,
Yeah.
That's right.
Although they're being stopped, they have to quarantine for 2 weeks, so they're not allowed to join the convoy. And they're not.
But the ideas.
There's apparently a bunch of them camped out on the other side of the border. So there you
really?
go. Yeah.
Oh,
I've
God,
heard that
really?
story. I don't know if it's true or not. Anyway.
Well, thank you so much to Randolph Richardson for being a guest, and thank you to my co-hosts Benjamin, Sabrina, Hertzy, and Brent Lee, and thank you for listening. You can follow us at leftadvalley.ca, not .com, don't go to that one. You can send us an email at leftadvalley@outlook.com. You can follow us on Twitter at LATV Podcast. You can follow us on YouTube or Facebook, or Instagram. Just go to YouTube/Left Valley.
All of them
All
are
right.
/Left
And
Valley.
don't forget to give credit to our other guest, the bread maker.
Yeah.
He had a lot to say.
If you
Really.
don't have one, go get one. Yum.
I hear it's a rising star.
Thank you,
good.
Hertzy.
Very good.
That works. Give us a 5-star review where you find us. It helps us and helps others find the show. And go to patreon.com/LATV if you want to help us grow the show. Brent Lee, what do you got coming up here on Unapologetics, buddy?
Yeah, we got the Unapologetics panel streams Wednesday night at 11:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's a lot lot of fun. You should come check it out on YouTube.
Sometimes Hertzy shows up and she doesn't fall asleep.
Yeah.
Kind of late.
And we
It's
make
kind of late.
fun of people. That's all we do. We make fun of Christians. We make fun of the alt-right.
Which is part of the reason I really need to stay up longer.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to just watch us make fun of people. Yeah,
It sure is a hoot.
it is.
Coming up
and holler
next
and a
week,
half.
we'll have John, the Godless Engineer. It's been a while since we had him on, so he'll be back and talking about his channel, YouTube. We'll have our old friend Janice Selby. He'll be talking about the
Court 2022.
Court 2020 of the Conference on Religious Trauma.
Mhm.
We'll have Ian Harris, funny guy. He'll be coming on the show. We're also having David Fitzgerald be talking about Mormons, and Seth Andrews on the pipe as well. So
We got lots coming up.
that's right.
And I think Hertzy has somebody.
Yes, Hertzy, you
coming on
got somebody else
too.
as well. You got
Yes, Nick Fish, president of American Atheists. They do a huge thing with the why is its name escaping me? It's a huge research project that they've been doing about what Christianity has been trying to take over, politics in the United States and such. Find out your state's grade, or where to find your state's grade.
We just had the Canadian Atheists, and now we'll have the American Atheist president.
That's
Nice.
great.
Yeah, that's perfect.
All right, guys. Anything else I need to add?
Have a great week.
Until next time.
Oh, yeah.
Now let me take a